My third presentation will be interactive visualization of MPO performance measures, multi-state comparisons and analytics. Michael Pat from CATT Lab at University of Maryland.
Thank you. Is anyone in here responsible for PM3 reporting? Anyone know him? Does anyone any idea what PM3 is? Something we got a couple people. All right. So no one has to do it. Congratulations. So, as a little bit of background, MAP 21. Federal requirement, all state DOTs, urbanized areas are going to be forced to report performance measures, performance of their system up to the federal government. And to help with that, the federal government has purchased a probe-based speed data set that can be used in computing various performance measures that the feds have said that you have to report on. The problem is a lot of states and MPOs struggle to ingest all of this data because the probe data can be fairly large. Even for a small area, it can be fairly large. And the computations, though they're not that complex, can be difficult for a lot of agencies because of the size of the data. So there are people that are trying to help, including my lab, where we've developed this npmrds.ridis.org website that allows states and MPOs to go in and be able to compute the PM3 performance measures, but also do other types of analytics on top of this free data set. So this is our website, and I was going to do a live demo, but I'm not anymore because this going back, I don't think it's going to work. But there are all sorts of different tools that make it pretty darn easy for states and MPOs to report on these performance measures. So you literally come in and you choose your state or your urbanized area. It's a drop-down list. You choose which state it is you're from or which one you want to look at. Same thing for all the urbanized areas and MPOs. You select which measure it is you're interested in, which year, whether you want to see a graph or a map or something else, and then out pops your performance measures. It takes a couple of minutes for them to be generated, maybe 2 or 3 minutes, but they're all pretty much done and ready to go. So here's an example of a bar chart display for the state of California, looking at interstate travel time reliability. It gives you a year-to-date performance, a month-to-date performance is on December right now. When you put your mouse over each of the other months, it updates and tells you what that performance was. The state can set a target if it knows what its target is supposed to be, and it'll tell you if you're meeting that target or not. And the same thing goes for maps. It will generate a map for each of the performance measures showing which segments of the roadway are meeting the target or not meeting the target, which ones are performing well, which ones aren't performing well, and you can go and you can filter this thing out. So this particular measure is saying that the roads are 49.6% reliable in California. Well, you could go in and you could say, well, I don't care about the ones that are reliable, just show me the ones that are failing in some way, and then it will hide all the good stuff and just show you the bad stuff. You can zoom in, you can analyze those segments, figure out what might be going on there. And you can export all of the data behind these just by clicking a little save button up here. So it's not just a picture, it's not just a bar chart, it's the data behind it. And soon we'll implement a way where you just press a button and it's literally going to print out the data and report that needs to go up to the feds. So trying to make it as easy as possible for the agencies that are out there. But we're trying to take it a step further. So it's one thing to be able to just look at your state or local region's performance, but wouldn't it be nice if you could start to do some comparisons and some more advanced analytics? So we've come up with these other displays that we're putting together. These are about 90% built. They're not all finished yet. But this one view lets you come in and see the entire United States, the performance of everybody together. How well are we doing with safety, bridge conditions, pavement conditions, emissions, so on and so forth. Are we performing well or performing poorly? How are we performing compared to the targets that we set? So forget about the absolute value, but compared to the targets that each state and MPO are setting for themselves, are they generally meeting those targets or failing to meet those targets? How are we doing with bridge conditions? So, you know, little diagrams of bridges, and however much of the, whatever percentage of the bridge conditions are poor in your particular state or region, you know, the bridge starts to crumble and fall apart. But you can see there's a list over here. You can then come in and you can select an individual state. You can also change which different measures are displayed over here, and it updates all the diagrams. Here's the progress to targets. But that's looking at individual states or the entire country. Maybe you want to then look at regional performance. So we've got a version where you can come in and you can choose clusters of states. You just click on them and it adds the state to the list, and it gives you the sum of the performance for those regions. So maybe there's some trend going on with New England states, and all the New England states are doing really poorly compared to southwestern states. You know, you could choose those different things here, explore them, and see if there are any trends to geography. Then we have just a national ranking. So to really embarrass people, you can come up and you can choose a measure up here, and then it will then just rank the performance of all the states. So the ones on top are doing well, the ones down the bottom are doing poorly, and it color codes them based on the percent. And there's a slider bar here that you can drag back and forth to see how that performance is changing over time. And we do the same thing. So yeah, you can choose in each performance measure up there, and it'll change what's showed. So here I switched to a different performance measure. Here's where we're actually comparing to the state target. So maybe it's not how well are they performing, but how well are they achieving the targets that they've set. And you know, the ones that are in green are doing well compared to their target, even if their overall performance is low. You know, they're doing well at least compared to their targets. And you can choose any of the measures to look at. And we're doing the same thing for the MPOs. So being able to rank all the MPOs throughout the country and see how they're performing compared to one another. And then other types of graphics that we're playing around with are these things called parallel coordinates plots. So the parallel coordinates plots, you can come in and you can choose one or more states. So here I've chosen Maryland and California, and then each one of these lines represents one of those states, and you can see how well they're doing compared to one another for each of the measures, compared to the baseline, compared to their target. We have other ways to go in and filter these things as well. So maybe you don't want to go in and click on individual states, but you want to see all of the states that have poor bridge conditions between like 5 and 8%. Then it will find those states and it will map those for you and show you when those conditions are met. So you have the ability to go in and click on some of these measures that have subcomponents, and it expands them. So you know, there might be an overall performance measure that you have to report up, but there's lots of metrics below it, so you can see those metrics as well. Or maybe you want to look at one measure and you want to compare that over time. So here you select one measure, performance per year, and you can see how things are improving or deteriorating. Thank you. All right, got a lot of smart people in the room. I'm not one of them. So then we have other types of graphics that we're playing around that are more simplistic. Some people don't want the map. Some people don't want all of the other stuff. So just a fancy Excel sheet that's somewhat interactive. So looking at Maryland compared to DC, compared to Delaware, compared to Connecticut, giving you the actual percentages and then color coding those percentages as well. So some people will gravitate toward the color, some will gravitate toward the numbers. but maybe that's still not your thing. So maybe you're emotional, and so we can just do happy faces and frowny faces and meh faces. And as with anything else I've shown you, it can be overall performance or performance towards your target. So even if you have a happy face in Delaware, maybe Delaware still sucks, and there's performance problems up there. No offense to Delaware. And then being able to expand and just show check marks. Did they pass or did they not? Did they meet their targets or not? They make backwards progress. And then we have the bubble charts that you've seen people do, scatter plots, bubble charts. Hans Grosling, I think that's his name, does a lot of these things. So you can choose multiple measures that you want to compare, and you plot all 50 states. Each one of these dots represents a state somewhere. I've clicked on Florida, Texas, and New York. It's highlighted New York, Texas, and Florida right there. And if you look closely, down here in the bottom, there's another slider bar. It's 2008 through 2016. You can hit play or you can drag the thing. And then what happens, here we zoomed in now. When you hit play, then these guys start to move around. Come on. There you go. They start to move around, and you can actually see as time progresses how they're changing. Are they getting better? Are they moving more towards a positive direction? Are they going in the negative direction? Are they shifting back and forth? What's happening? And you can start to compare them. Maybe some people have been doing great, and have all of a sudden gone way down here, or vice versa. And there's all sorts of different filters that are built in as well. So you can come in and you can say, well, I just want to see the guys that are performing at X level or at Y level or between some sort of range, and it finds those things for you. Makes it easier to do some comparison and some filtering. There we go. That's all I've got. The MPM RDS tools are available now. You can go out and play around with them and look at your state's performance. The other tools that I showed you where you're comparing different states, maybe another month or so before all of those will be up online and available. That's it.
May I have a last quick question? Did you consider systems, obviously for reporting purposes, when states have to set targets, do you consider a forecasting component, module, system that?
So forecasting, no. There is a multi-year comparison, multi-year trend analysis tool that you can use that will look at your state's performance over X number of years, and the thought is you look at the trend. You're going down, you're going flat, you're going up, and you can use that to help set targets. It's more complicated than that, but the tools themselves don't directly tell you how you should set your target. They just help you to understand what's going on, maybe inform your target setting.
Michael, in your comparison of states tool, is there a functionality that allows you to pick your cohort of the states, so you're not comparing Rhode Island to California if you want to figure out my state compared to other states that have the same number of bridges or the same number of urban interstate miles? Can you create categories like that?
I think there is on one of the tools. I know we do something based on population and based on climate. I don't know if we normalize based on number of miles, but I know population and climate we do that.
Have you seen anything in looking at comparisons of those states that are very similar? Has any data jumped out at you in those comparisons to say, wow?
Well, so not really, but partly because we only have a couple of years of data for all the other measures, right? Well, Federal Highways give us 1 year of data for everything other than the PM3, the system performance. Now, the system performance measures, we can see some trends, but the bridge conditions and everything else, we don't look at that. So.
Are the targets in the tool right now kind of placeholders since the requirements are for next year to actually set future targets, or?
Yeah, so the target, like in the interface, there's like choose which measure, and then you can type in a target. That is literally just an indicator. So once we've computed everything, the whatever target you set, put into the system, then essentially is a line that gets drawn somewhere, or it changes how the colors are displayed. It's arbitrary, really. It doesn't change the actual performance numbers that are sticking out. It just changes how they're presented. It's just something there to play around with.
Put the question another way. Just because the current version says that California's target is 32%, you don't know whether that's true or false.
Oh, I totally made that up.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's right.
that I think is the question.
Yeah.
Because all of that comparison to progress is going to only be reasonable if you know what the state action picked.
Yeah, so no one has, I think, set any targets yet that I'm aware of. But, you know, you can play around this, where should I say?
Is this going to be available for how many years? What's the plan?
So the NPM RDS analytics is currently available free to states and MPOs that are allowed to access the NPM RDS data. So it's not available to the general public, it's not available to consultants unless the consultant is working on behalf of the DOT to help with that sort of stuff. We are working on, so right now this is like unfunded, right? We just did it because we
Okay, that's
could.
what I was getting at.
Yeah.
I was paying for the.
So we are exploring ways to make it sustainable for, you know, a decade or so. But currently it's free and have at it. Hopefully it'll remain